This will rattle the White House, maybe even make heads roll. The news tonight, American people are losing faith in President Obama's foreign policy. This is On the Record. Iraq under siege. Moments ago, a classified briefing just ending in the U.S. Senate. Only On the Record taking you inside. Plus,
we're prepared to send a small number of additional American military advisors, up to 300, to assess how we can best train, advise, and support Iraqi security forces going forward.
American boots on the ground. But do Americans have any faith in President Obama? Also,
this would be laughable if it wasn't so serious.
Criminal? Incompetent? Flat out ridiculous? Tonight, the founder of the company who backed up some IRS emails goes on the record and says, don't blame us.
How can you possibly tell our fellow citizens that there's no criminal wrongdoing?
On the Record starts right now. This is a Fox News alert. Just moments ago, the full Senate wrapping up a classified briefing on the volatile situation in Iraq. Fox News chief congressional correspondent Mike Emanuel is live on Capitol Hill with the latest. Mike.
Well, Greta, good evening. This comes as 90 more U.S. troops have arrived on the ground in Iraq. We are told that 50 more are due in the coming days. So of the 300 U.S. troops that President Obama could send to Iraq, 130 are there right now. And I'm told from some senators who were in that classified briefing that there are grave concerns about the situations on the ground there in Iraq changing very rapidly. Some of the senators expressed concern, saying the president's hesitation or his team's lack of decisiveness may be costing the U.S. and its allies in the region. They've expressed concern about other allies in the region being in jeopardy as this terrorist army, ISIS, is marching across Iraq. And so there's been some talk from senators about the need for airstrikes to attack these convoys as they're crisscrossing Iraq, cut off their supply lines. Some have been talking about the need to wait for a coalition government, a new government to be formed in Iraq. But Senator McCain came out a few moments ago and said he doesn't know if there's time to wait, that the airstrikes may need to happen now. We've heard some senators saying airstrikes are needed because there's concern about this ISIS plotting to attack the United States on the homeland, and so grave concerns about the situation in Iraq. Greta.
Mike, thank you. And Senator Lindsey Graham was in that classified Iraq briefing. He joins us. Nice to see you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, I know it's classified, so we can't hear all of it,
Sure.
but we can hear some of it. Were you satisfied?
I thought it was a good briefing, and my takeaways were that the ISIS is mounting an attempt to attack us abroad and at home, American interests.
Americans.
Yes. I mean, it's pretty clear that their agenda includes more than Iraq. They're going to go into Jordan unless someone stops them, and that's the last moderate voice in the Mideast. But the takeaway was that this group is very much interested in hitting America.
Well, why are we just learning that now?
Well,
I mean, if I take it that they didn't just decide last week to hit America,
well,
that would be their plan.
Director Clapper, the head of National Intelligence, told us about 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago, that they represent a threat to the homeland. Thousands of Europeans and some Americans have gone to Syria. This all started in Syria. So my belief is if we hit them in Syria, where they're exposed, that airstrikes could really do damage to the leadership of this group in Syria. It might change the outcome in Iraq. And here's what I got from Iraq. There's a glimmer of hope that the Sunnis and the Kurds and the Shias feel threatened enough to form a new government that we could rally around, a government of the center. I think that has to happen before anything really changes in Iraq.
Mike just reported that the president's hesitation is creating problems.
I think his hesitation to not strike ISIS months ago, maybe even 30 days ago, was a mistake because they've gotten so much stronger. But now thinking this thing through, if you drop a bomb in Iraq and you don't have diplomacy, a political solution, the bomb will do no good. If you don't show some resolve, people won't step up to form a new government. So it's chicken and egg. I really do believe that our focus inside of Iraq should be getting a new government formed that we can all rally around, including the Iraqi people, then to help with airstrikes.
Right. Well, yeah, Mike also said, Senator McCain says we should move right now with airstrikes. Here's the problem is that, from what I understand talking to military experts, is that you need intelligence on the ground to show where to hit.
See, that's the point. I think these troops going in on the ground will give us better targeting. But we know...
Are you talking about these 300?
Yes. The purpose is to find good information, not drop bombs randomly. Know what you're trying to do. You don't want to blunder into this. We have made mistakes, but we are where we are. But in Syria, it's a different deal. we pretty well know where these training camps are at. We could deliver a really strong blow to ISIS in Syria, which I think would help us in Iraq, give us some momentum.
But how, I mean, that may handle it in Syria, I mean, which is one problem. But if you've got ISIS already in Iraq and march, and it buys you time?
Because their supplies are coming from Syria.
All right. You know, what American people are very war weary.
I hope they're not too worried to defend ourselves.
Right. What do we get out of this? If we do the airstrikes, you know, what do you get? What do I get? What is, you know, what do the rest of the American people get?
You can stop another 9/11. If you don't do anything, another 9/11 in larger proportions.
How do you convince the American people of that? Because, you know, that's, I mean, of course you say 9/11, we all get terrified, but I mean, give me more proof.
Do you believe that the people who are shooting folks in the head, killing children in front of their parents, beheading people by the hundreds, if not thousands, would not attack us if they could?
I suspect. I mean, I don't have much. You know,
do you believe that the only reason? I suspect they would, but they're very busy over there doing doing the dirty work over there. The stronger they get over there, the weaker we are here. So now's the time to blunt their strength. If they have a safe haven in Syria and Iraq, they will use that safe haven to attack America. There is some hope to turn Iraq around. But Jordan is next.
So you don't think they don't just build an Islamic State, that they want to go on? If they've had all their great success in Iraq, let's say they built an Islamic State, there's Sharia law, that you think they want to come beyond and they want to come here to get us?
They believe that the biggest impediment to building that Islamic State is American presence in the Mideast. They're trying to drive us out. They're trying to destroy Israel, kill every Christian in the Mideast or drive them out, make every Muslim bend to their will, and they see us as an impediment to that. They're telling us they're going to hit us.
One quick question. Is that what you got out of the briefing tonight?
I got out of the briefing tonight that the stronger they get in Iraq, the more likely we are to get hit, and there's a chance to turn it around. We better act quickly. And one thing I got out of the briefing, if we don't help the King of Jordan, who's the last moderate voice in the Mideast, God help us all.
Senator, thank you. And now to a just-released Fox News poll that is going to rattle the White House. President Obama losing points with many Americans since the escalation of the violence in Iraq. The latest Fox poll showing 60% of those surveyed disapprove of the job President Obama is doing on foreign policy. Just 32% approve right now. And Democratic strategist Joe Trippi joins us. Well, Joe, that sort of interesting poll number, especially American people, 60% disapprove of what the president's doing. Senator Graham says that we need to be more aggressive, I think, than what President Obama is doing in Iraq right now.
Yeah, well, these numbers are bad, obviously, but they're very similar to the kind of numbers George Bush was receiving at the end of his second term. Again, about Iraq. I mean, it's interesting that they're the same.
Almost identical. But
yeah.
President Clinton, I actually went back to it. You're right about President Bush 43. He had the same numbers. He had 61%, right. 1% more. President Clinton, his disapproval was only 36% on foreign policy.
No, that's right. I mean, which I think is kind of one of the things that's sort of responsible for some of the Clinton nostalgia that's going on right now. But I think fundamentally these numbers don't matter to the current president. I mean, what the pragmatic thing about these numbers is, look, it's bad news for Democrats who have to defend the president in the November 14 election. The lower his numbers go, the lower their chances of being reelected, many of them in Senate and House races around the country, the better it is for Republicans. But in the end, history is going to, as it will with George Bush, decide whether going into Iraq was the right decision or the wrong decision, and whether the president's decision was the right one in how he's handling Iraq today, not the poll numbers. The poll numbers are not going to affect what the president does.
President pay attention to these poll numbers?
I don't think so. No, I don't think Bush did. I don't think this president did. They're both doing or did what they thought was right for the country. You can disagree with that. The American people obviously do. The one thing I would counsel, though, is we are a country that tends to go to opposites. If Nixon had these numbers, we go to Jimmy Carter, the honest guy. When Ike was the older guy, we went to John F. Kennedy.
So where do we go from President Obama?
I think if people think he was inexperienced, didn't have enough foreign policy experience, you start to look for a Lindsey Graham, a John McCain, a Hillary Clinton. I know people like go, set their hair on fire when I say this thing, but I think what this does set up is, in terms of 2016, if the American people become convinced that this president didn't have the experience or the foreign policy chops, and look now to the new president, it's likely that it's going to be somebody who is more experienced than usual, more wisdom, more thinking on these issues. And that does speak to some other candidates and a lot of the ones that are showing up.
I mean, we'll see what happens to Iraq, because that may bump the number up farther or drag it back down in a better range. But right now, let's see what a very volatile region in the Middle East. Anyway, Cho, thank you. And breaking right now, 90 American forces have just arrived in Iraq. They are part of the 300 special forces President Obama is sending to advise Iraq's military. Journalist Annabelle Vandenberg is live in Baghdad with the latest. Annabelle, what is the Secretary John Kerry is in Iraq. Tell me, how is he received there? Is he having a good impact there?
Well, at this moment, it's not very clear what the talks have been said between Kerry and the Prime Minister Maliki, so that was not very clear yet. But what we do know is here on the ground, people are really asking for the Americans to come back. A lot of people have told me that they need the American army to protect them because their own army is not strong enough.
So what do they want from the American people? You say they want more from the American people, but exactly what do the Iraqis want?
Yeah, so now 300 soldiers have been sent to Iraq, but that's only to protect the own interests of the United States. What the people in Baghdad and the people in Iraq want is that, first of all, the United States urge Maliki to step down, because everybody believes that going forward with al-Maliki will not be possible. That's the first step they have to take. Secondly, they want the American soldiers to come back so they can fight alongside the Iraqi army to fight the extremists.
What is the prediction? What will happen if the American people don't do anything, or the Americans, the U.S. doesn't send anything?
Well, of course, America at this point, they have to wait for a compromise with Iran as well, because Iran is also in the game this time again. So they first want to talk together. First, Iran and the United States have to become clear on what they will do and what they can do before they will take actions.
Annabelle, thank you.